Welcome to the first part of my story. I was going to call this vibrational drop, but it sounds more like vibrational hell. Because I was like, the tag is marriage from hell. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, let's just put all of those together. And it kind of came out to a vibrational hell because I was living it in my body. So this is a series of 4. These are the 4 drops where I could identify physical vibrational drop within the body. This is the first pillar that we work on in my course. So that's why I'm addressing how you can identify what similarities you can find that I analyze now when I look back. And hopefully this will be of use to you and comfort to you. If you're one of those that like to commiserate, we can commiserate on this one. So technically, I was already married before I had my vibrational drop in the marital party. So I got legally married months before, and then we decided to postpone the party till his parents, his family, or his friends were able to organize themselves to come down to Bolivia and celebrate the marriage with us. By the time after we had done the legal marriage, things had pretty much fallen apart. I was 5 months with child. So the hormones, I didn't know anything about this back in the time either. I didn't realize that part of this huge physical vibrational drop was due to this hormonal change. And I was heading into something that I had no idea what this was actually going to cause. So the day of the wedding party, we had organized a ceremony outside at my home. And in that morning, we had quite a discussion before my friends arrived. I had 2 of my friends who came to help me organize the things for the party. And he had told me that he didn't even want to do this. And so I said, okay then, so then if you don't want to do it, let's call it off. But for some reason, both him and me were lacking the courage. I think I was just emotionally distraught, and I figured at some point afterwards he would get over it. You know how we're thinking it's something of the moment, and it's so hard. It's so hard to tell, ladies, is it just because of this? Will it get better after? I think there's both cases where afterwards it was just something that you went through and everything is okay. And then there are cases like mine where that was a huge red flag that I should have picked up on. And I was unable to in the moment because everything is already set in motion. I already had the gentleman who was going to come and marry us, and he was certified to do so. All the invitations had been made. We had already received several gifts. And for some reason in my mind, I decided I was just going to pull through with it. And I think this was one of the worst decisions you can do, because if your intuition is screaming something to you and your actions are saying, no, I'm going to go ahead and do it, there's like a physical disassociation. It's kind of an out-of-body experience where you numb yourself to the point so that you can carry through, and all the time in the background, you know, this is completely wrong. This is completely unnecessary. And that's how I figure a lot of people get to walk down the aisle, and a month or 2 later, it's undone. But the moment of walking down the aisle, they have convinced themselves in some neurological twist that they must go through with it. I kind of applaud the people who are able to have the guts to run out at the last minute, because they something woke them up. I had nothing to wake me up. I even had the pastor who came before we had the ceremony, and he asked us, he said, are you sure? Are you sure, you know, under the love of Christ? This is a union, you know, before God. And even though we had already legally been married, I actually felt that this marriage was the real marriage that was happening. And look under the conditions that I was doing it. And for me, it was clear to me that I'm like, I can't hide any, like, God can see right through me. He knows exactly how I feel. And it wasn't a question of love or not love. I loved this person, or my version of what loving the person was. I guess some would say, how can you love someone who's actually not loving you in return? And it's not both ways. That's not love. Then that's like some kind of sick obsession, right? Because love is from both parts. But anyway, in my version, it was love, and I thought that that would overcome all. So we proceeded throughout the day, and I decided that I would, to stay together, to hold it together, I would just stay distant during the wedding with everyone, talk a little bit here, go a little bit there, not sit down and go into anything heavy, because that could be a moment for anything to be triggered, especially me being in such a sensitive state that I was in. And to this, by the end of the afternoon, I remember the guy I was marrying, he says, why you're so distant from me the whole event. I didn't go and sit with him or be with him or anything. And I'm like, for me, it was so logical. I'm like, what do you mean? You just told me this morning that you didn't want to do this. For me, it was like, I'm going to go and do it and then just leave you alone, right? Because you don't even want to be here. He was kind of like just doing it for me. None of his parents, one of his friends was able to come, but none of his parents were able to come. And I think for me, this played a huge role in everything that he had done and was working on to show them the success that he had done. He was building a dog hotel in the back and certain projects that he had started, and they didn't bother even to take the effort to come to their own son's wedding that we had postponed for him. So I know he was dealing with his own issues of feeling validated and loved and by his family. But I was completely on an island of my own. And the evening proceeded to be a disaster, where he stayed up with his one friend that had come to visit and our neighbor, and they got severely intoxicated, and they were up till very late, and I was up in bed just crying and crying and crying after all the guests had left. And I could feel physically my framework, my vibration was deteriorating. I almost felt like I was like disintegrating in my bed. The vibration could not sustain itself. And I didn't sleep all night because they were up all night. And I told them, I said, make sure you bring the things in when you're done. And sure enough, I went out in the morning around 6 a.m. and everything was just left out there. No, it could have rained, or the radio, just everything. The only thing, I just remember the radio because that radio my father had given me. So I picked it up and I took it inside, and I had made a backpack. And since they were intoxicated, and I figured that's going to be 2 days of hangover for them, and here I am 5 months with the baby, and I'm going to have to take care of them and clean up this whole mess. I packed my backpack and I left to the jungle walking. I left the car there because there wasn't going to be where to park it later on. And yes, I just left, and I would remember walking over the peak of the mountain and seeing the sun rising on the other side. And I was just, the physical experience was incredible, of this drop. So I had the drop, And then since I had left, I kind of had the weight lifted. But in one sense, I knew I had to come back. So I didn't tell I didn't tell anyone, and I went to the jungle. I stayed alone in the jungle for about 5 days. And that's when I named my daughter. That's when I came up with her name. And her name means to make the bond. I wanted to make a bond. I had been in such emotional turbulence before that with the relationship that I wasn't able to enjoy or connect with my pregnancy or the fact that I was going to have a child coming into the earth. And those were some beautiful and also scary days. My vibration continued to drop, I believe, noticing that no one called me. And on the third day that I was gone, I sent him a text message saying where I was. And his response was, "Well, I'm glad you left when you did." Because I don't know what, but just hearing someone say that they were glad that I was gone from my own home and from my own celebration, it was just super low, super low vibration. Even the memory seems to draw in a shadow of that whole experience. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because this is one of the 4 moments. This might be the longest. I don't think it was the deepest of my lows, but it was the longest, quite prolonged. And I think it was because of the hormonal imbalance. So if you're on medication or you are pregnant, take note that it's might be a slightly altered reality for the moment, because I myself couldn't understand why I couldn't reset my own mind. This is my first pregnancy, so I had no idea why my mind was not able to get me back on board. I was always able to recover, and it was the first time that this really threw me, like it really threw me down. And in part of the work that I do now is to identify these isolated moments and give a specific key memory, like the walking over the mountain, or the laying in the bed in the jungle where I decided to name my daughter, or the whole night I stayed up, or the moment I drug the radio in. These are my key focal points to notice. This is where my vibration was the lowest physically. And in this case, I would say it would go into my emotional pillar, because it was due to a relationship. It was due to something that was happening to a relationship. In this case, it was not illness that was lowering my vibration, right? It wasn't a physical accident. Had I been physically maybe a little bit stronger, I think that my vibration wouldn't have dropped so low. But I had dropped off a lot of my physical activity during the romancing period, because we were in honeymoon state, and all of a sudden I didn't go back to gymnastics, I didn't go back to my job as a dancer, and I was just kind of enjoying being in this relationship. So identifying these key lows are super valuable information for when you're going to work on in the high frequency course, which is called Become Vibrant. The Become Vibrant course is tailored so that you can take the lowest dip, the lowest pillar where it's at, and neutralize it. And then the course works you through the physical and emotional work to bring you back up here where naturally be. I was tired for many years. I just was happy with normal. I was happy with stable. I was like, as long as I'm not drowning, this is okay. I thought this was okay. I can make it. But I got tired of this. And it happened that years later, fast forward to today, I feel like it's more of a walk on water. Frequency and vibration wise, I can see that it's such a distance below me. And I also enjoy the fact that I have a clear low, and the clear lows, because I have 3 more examples of lows, of the distance between it, like, as I can't even fit it in the camera. There's such a distance. And I think if you just go down a little bit, then you only feel the up a little bit. But the further you peak, then the higher the intensity. You can feel like, now this is different, right? So my invitation to you is to consider, where is your frequency at now? Are you happy with that? If you held that frequency from here to 5 years and you were still feeling how you feel now, then okay. But if not, if from 1 to 10 you're like, no, I'm more of like a 2, my frequency is not where I want to be at. I'm not feeling like I'm vibrating with joy, happiness, abundance. I'm not lighthearted at the moment. Then that's the moment to take action. And the Become Vibrant course is kind of the story. It's the journey that I took to get where I'm at now, condensed in the format, right? So I'm working on constructing, it's for sale right now. You can go and check it out. It's in the Hotmart link that is put in the YouTube, what was it, in the biography. And I'm super excited. I'm super excited about this course because I think it's like having a toolkit in your pocket for any moment where a life situation is going to throw me. I know that I have tools that can not only stabilize me, but they can take me up and above, because I was able to do it with the things that I used throughout these 10 years, where I have written down, I think it's like the first 6 years after that, I was just flatlining. It was like survival mode. I couldn't alter the frequency. And I had to sit down and analyze what was going on in my life. Why couldn't I reboot and revamp and lift myself out? And it's just a fantastic process. So I hope that was useful for you to see what hard moments each of us go through. My next vibrational drop was in the Church of San Francisco, and that's another story, and I will be telling you that in the next video. When it comes out, it'll be posted up over here, and see how I processed what was going on in that vibrational drop. All right, let you go for now, and remember, every day we surely, truly, and totally wake up stronger.